Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, adnistana. Welcome back to Points of Light Radio. Well, we're finally here. This is that segment that I promised you in the fall of last year called Restore the Brotherhood. In this segment, we will be exploring ways to make our lodges feel like we're someplace special, right? We're going to, start looking at ways to how to make it feel more like a brotherhood, particularly these more esoteric fraternal organizations. How do we make it feel? How do we bring back, for lack of a better term, that Menschkeit, right? How do we bring it back? Because some of these lodges it just feels like another place to go, right? We want to make it feel special again, to draw people in, because I still believe, and many of my guests believe, that a lot of people who are out there, even outside of fraternalism today, are looking for some of that. So how do we make it feel special for those who are looking to join, right? Now, we will be getting opinions from 3 different guests in this segment, and I'll also be offering you some of my personal experience from my time around fraternalism. All right? Now, it's going to be interesting, like I said, retracing our steps a little bit here, right, as well as getting some new opinions and trying to answer this question. Right? So let's just see if we can find an answer, right, to this question. But are you still thirsty for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then you just trim your lamp and follow me. Let's open it up with my good brother and old buddy, Owen Snowden from the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes. Yeah. What about the brotherhood aspect of it?
Yeah.
Part of something special, or that brothers look after brothers. Do you see that within the RAOB, or do you think that's something they really need to get back to?
Certainly, I think you still see the brotherhood side of it in the RAOB. But it should be more heavily used, because these societies are brotherhoods. These societies are we're all brothers. We should be looking after our own first and foremost, and then charity second, which we do, but we don't advertise that enough.
Do you remember our new friend and Freemason David Custo from Sterling, Colorado? There he is.
And basically, I just when I joined up, I said, "Hey, we need to have start doing stuff. These, people want to do stuff. It's not very appealing when you're like, yeah, come to lodge, and there's no dinner, and it's just a business meeting with not a lot of camaraderie. And so we did kind of a community dinner." Good. And invited some guys, and we had some guys fill out petitions and join. And we're really starting to grow. So we're even putting our old float right now. We are revamping a old Masonic float. We're going to put it in a parade here locally.
Mm-hmm. If people don't know you're there, they're not going to go. You have to.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, so we're really pushing hard. So we're doing that, and then we've got some community events that happen downtown, and the whole town comes down to visit the different booths and stuff like that. So we're actually trying to also plan to have a booth at these events where I don't know if we're doing brats and hamburgers or whatever, and we're going to be wearing, if we're Shriners, we're going to have our fez caps on. If we're going to have aprons on. We're going to, really be trying to show, hey, we're here and you should join our lodge. And we're really starting to come with some good ideas on how we can benefit our community and some local organizations, some local charities, as well as grow our lodge and have some good brotherhood.
Let's hear from Oddfellow David Shear. Now, would you say that's part of, the need to, shall we say, restore the brotherhood aspect to this thing? Would you say that's maybe what the younger crowd is looking for, or what do you think? Like to make it relevant, shall we say, to make it more active, maybe not just in the community, but in the lives of the members? Would you say that's something that needs to, shall we say, be restored?
Yes. So one of the things is that at Peninsula Lodge, where we are thriving, we have like 60 active members who do volunteer work and attend meetings. An average meeting is over 30 members.
That's wonderful.
And the things that we are doing now to make that happen, because you may know, I also run the Museum of Odd History.
Yeah.
And in the research going back into the history of these lodges, we find that the things we are doing today are the things that lodges were doing at, the height of lodges in the 1900 to 1925 era. We found many instances of lodges having bands, having dance classes, having theater productions, all being put on by their members. And that's exactly what Peninsula Lodge is doing. We operate essentially as a co-op community center, and our members run the different classes and programs that are happening in the lodge. And so we have people from all over the neighborhood coming into our building. We're open 7 days a week, and we have people coming in to take dance classes, martial arts classes. I teach Aikido in the lodge. And so the whole neighborhood knows who the Odd Fellows are, but more importantly, through meeting their instructors and stuff, they know Odd Fellows. And they come in, we have posters up showing the history of our lodge and what we've done in the community since 1894. And then they do that one thing that is so important that you mentioned earlier. They ask us, how do I become a member? And what's wonderful about that is that now people are joining the lodge knowing what the activities of the lodge are, knowing what we do. So they don't come in and then get disappointed because they were expecting one thing and they got something else. And that's why we have such active membership.
Yeah, and they actually see that there is a brotherhood aspect to it, that people can actually, you're doing things together, you're actually, like, would you agree as well that, when a member hasn't showed up for a while, there's someone there to call them up and say, haven't saw you in a while, everything good, right? Things like that.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Moving on with Joseph Benton from the Odd Fellows. Thank you for that. Now, the one thing I did want to ask you, your lodge,
sure.
one more thing is I would love to ask you is, what does your lodge do to make it feel like a brotherhood, what would you say the one thing that you would do to make it feel like a brotherhood? You have like a meal before or after a lodge meeting or something?
Well, in our lodge, we used to do that. It used to be a regular thing. As a matter of fact, we had somebody who was quite good at um, uh, Santa Maria style barbecue.
Oh, you're killing me.
Yeah, because Santa Maria is literally just down the street from us.
Mhm.
So this entire area, there are plenty of people that really know how to barbecue, and we actually have a really huge barbecue pit in our kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah, it is the Santa Maria style pit too. It's this one where it has like a graded screen that can be lowered down closer to the coals
Okay.
or raised up higher. So it's no it's not an ordinary grill.
Mhm.
And they used to have these dinners before lodge meetings, and it was either free for members or at a reduced rate. I don't ever remember hearing the specific details about that, but they used to make enough that they would make to-go boxes, and people who were members that didn't want to, necessarily attend the meeting, or some of their friends and stuff like that, they would actually form a line outside the lodge and pick up these to-go meals, and they would pay for them. So, so yeah, that was something that used to feature very prominently in our lodge. A lot of our lodge members used to play cards. There's a lot of remaining evidence of that. We used to have a pool lounge up on the third floor. I've been around to some of the lodges in the area, and all of the lodges in the area have a pool table room.
Okay.
And, usually like a place to play poker. Not necessarily gambling. I don't want to say that
No,
people
that's
are
fair enough.
gambling, but they play cards. A lot of pinochle decks, not euchre decks, because euchre uses regular. But yeah, pinochle decks and things like that. So a lot of games and things, and obviously people have kind of fallen out of favor just in general playing cards. Even some of the newer members are like, I don't know about having a pool table.
Mhm.
You know, I personally am from a generation where that's like kind of a symbol of, I don't want to say necessarily wealth, but definitely more to do, more wealthier than somebody who can't afford a pool table, because pool tables are not cheap.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, refelting one is like pretty expensive.
It is, yeah.
So that those are some of the things that we do. Now, in other lodges, especially Davis, Davis, California, they are a lodge that has hundreds of members, and they are very actively engaged in a number of activities in their town. You should seek out and interview, somebody from that lodge, because they could tell you about how they have tons of different committees that are organized around events, and like they have a committee for this and a committee for that. It's like, because they have such a huge lodge, they do things like break world records together. I think that they have the world record for the most zombies driving bicycles. So they have a lot of fun, and they have a lot of engagement in the community, and that's certainly something that builds, I think, a good sense of brotherhood, that like we're in this together. Like if we're going to make a difference in the world, we're going to do it together, that sort of thing. And our lodge has gone through a bit of a renaissance. In the past few years, we've gone from like 20 members to 40 members. The number of active people who attend lodge on a regular basis has doubled, I think.
Good.
Which is pretty fair to say, think. And so we're kind of struggling with that. Like, now, like, what do we do? Like, what can we do, and who's going to do it? So we just had, since I've joined the lodge, the first Christmas dinner.
Good.
And we had a Christmas party. We had a white elephant, party. Sorry, gift exchange. You know how most people know what that is. So anyways, that was a lot of fun. We had one of our members is known in the area for his tri-tip. So he made our tri-tip. He runs the restaurant portion of a local beer house.
Okay.
And so we went to him and said, "Hey, we need barbecue for like 30 people." And so he gave us that, and we're going to pay him for it.
Good.
And so that way we were all, and we had a potluck for the rest of the food. All the sides and desserts were potluck. So that turned out pretty good, I think.
But I think
And
it's something that has to continuously evolve. How do you maintain this brotherhood? It's not something you take one thing and do it forever. You have to continuously evolve it, by the sounds of things.
absolutely. And I think that any lodge that is interested in building brotherhood, like you're pointing at, is finding things that we can do together where there are enough people who want to put them on, because that's one of the things that we have struggled with a little bit as we grew in numbers. It's like, well, I think we should do this, but then nobody does it. So like,
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
we get past that, and it's like, hey, I want to do this, and oh, you're in charge of it. Okay, well then, I guess I better do it if I say that I want to do it, right? So once we get that sort of ownership of these ideas, then I think that we're going to be doing more things socially, and we will become more of an extended family rather than just people who go to a lodge meeting, because we have lodge business taking care of our building and all that stuff, but we would be reduced to only talking about the building if we didn't do anything socially. So by coming up with things that we can do socially and having people actually put together, organize, come up, show up a little early, stay a little late. It isn't until we have that we will have a greater sense of brotherhood than just, oh yeah, we all went to, join this lodge and we did the degrees and we show up and we talk about the building and the bills. So it's those social things that really make the difference. So we are very keenly focused on kind of building a momentum of having things to do socially, because I think that is the key to building brotherhood. And I don't know, how you feel about it, but doing things together that are, I think, a bit more unusual, I think, is a great way of doing it too. So, like, for example, we're talking about degrees. There is something called the cave degree that we have out here in California. Up in Northern California, there is a cave. It's kind of just a hole in the side of a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been, but it's co-owned by the Masons and the Oddfellows.
Okay.
And so there's this stage that's built into it. And coming up here in about a week, I am going to be hosting a podcast episode where we discuss the cave degree in detail. So if we as a lodge got a few people together and drove up to Northern California, it's probably a good 8 hours, drove up there together, that would certainly form some brotherhood, because that's the kind of thing that, like, after you've been in a car with somebody for a few hours, you're either going to grow together or you're going to grow apart. And sometimes growing apart is part of brotherhood, and then you find a way to get back together,
Yeah,
so
true.
yeah, so this is all, I think, part of what brotherhood is about, is finding unique things to do. Some lodges go on fishing trips together. From my understanding, they actually, in our lodge, used to go down and see LA Dodgers games.
Wow.
A long time ago, long before I was, part of the lodge. So, it's like things like that we can talk about, hey, yeah, you remember when we went to the lodge, went here, the lodge did this, the lodge did that. That's part of building brotherhood, having a history together.
Yeah. There you have it, brothers and sisters. 4 different guests from various different fraternal bodies, right? So how do you feel about this? Well, let's, shall we say, digress on what we've seen here. First of all, I'll be the first to tell you, these interviews, these clips took place at various different times. You can probably notice that, but I often do that, just save a clip here and there. Now, things we discussed Owen Snowden talked about the need for heavier use and emphasis of the brotherhood aspect within the RAOB. Okay? Right? He said they do a lot of charitable works, but they really don't, shall we say, really advertise them even among their own members. Now, on a personal level, what I have seen in my time in the Orange Lodge back in Ontario, there was a brother that had lost his house in my lodge. And the brethren, not just in our lodge, but various different lodges, raised funds to help him rebuild his life afterwards. That is a fairly catastrophic, shall we say, event. I've seen people lose their houses like that. And it's just, the need to help rebuilding afterwards is critical. A brother in a lodge I belong to now, he had some car trouble, and the lodge helped him raise funds to repair his vehicle. That's very important. We rely on our vehicles, especially on these prairie provinces here, right? And that's really what lodge is there for. Mr. Shear and Mr. Benton talked about projects that brothers can work towards together, music lessons, trips, and things like that. I do think that getting out even just for day trips together is a great way of bonding, right? And I really don't think lodges really do enough of that. Mr. Custo and Mr. Benton hit on something I've experienced and seen done in lodges, and that's that brethren breaking bread together afterwards, or even before. That's a great idea. Meals are a great way for brothers to bond. Like any family, don't forget family, it's important for the brethren to bond, right? And that's a great way to do it. I know last night I met my brethren at the Loyal Orange Lodge, and after the meeting was over, we had some drinks and a chat in their beautiful basement lounge. And we discussed this very thing, and you could feel the menschkeit. You really could, but we were discussing this very thing. It's funny that, and just that bond between the brethren, it's wonderful. Even just for a little while afterwards, I know some of my brothers there had some health issues recently. So it was wonderful to just sit down with them afterwards, even for a few minutes, and just chat. We encourage each other on. That's what lodges are there really for. It is a home. We are there together, right? In it together, and we should encourage each other on, especially, things like that. And of course, post-Christmas blues and all that kind of stuff going on. We were able to kind of get together on a cold winter's night. Like I said, have a few drinks, and, the camaraderie for or whatever you want to call it was great, right? And I'll put a picture of it up right there so you can see it. Okay, yeah, I've got some nasty habits. Okay, but let me ask you, in closing, how do you think we could restore or strengthen the brotherhood in our lodges? What does your lodge do, right, to strengthen brotherhood? It's not just restoring, it's strengthening it, making sure, maintaining brotherhood for that matter, right? I want to know, right? And I'll close with that, right? This was a lot of fun doing this with you today, brothers and sisters. But before I go, I want to remind you that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. And as I keep saying, I want to have your comments and input. You can follow me on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. You can see the link to my Spotify channel as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, as always, it has been an honor and a pleasure to bring you this podcast and to share some fellowship with these guests. Until we meet again, just step into the light.